My living experience in Manhasset was an enjoyable living experience in Manhasset. If the clocks could turn back to those years.
My memories of that time period, of the people that lived in the community in that time period, they're golden memories. They're golden memories.
See, I'm speaking about history that a lot of people don't even know nothing about.
You're having me to go back almost 65 years.
Behind the AME Zion Church at 519 Community Drive is the burial ground of the Manitowoc Indians and the former enslaved African Americans of the Manhasset and Great Neck area. After the Civil War, African Americans from the South found themselves in a world of freedom, and with that freedom came hunger, hardship, and the intimidating challenges of survival. In search of prosperity, African Americans came north. This is the story of those who settled on Spinney Hill.
Well, from what my mother tells me, this was an agricultural country here on Long Island, I guess like most of the country, and they were farmers. My grandmother's homestead, which was at entrance 3 to North Shore Hospital. Her brother, Joseph Davidson, he had a farm. And his farm was large enough so that he hired neighborhood people and relatives to pick beans for him and tomatoes and other produce. And my uncle, my mother's brother, had a horse and wagon, and he would take that produce to Newtown Market, which is in the city. And where the golf course is, he grew asparagus. My mother said they were like asparagus fields all along there. There were no boundaries, no fences, and things of that nature. So they were farmers. They also followed the Manhasset Bay and did clamming, dug clams. So clam digging and farming, that was it. Until let's say, my mother was born in 1901. In 1920, that was the time of the Gold Coast era. That's when the wealthy people were coming here and building these large mansions.
It wasn't that much jobs in the South other than picking cotton, picking tobacco, or, hard labor. So they come up, especially when the people started to hire, the rich people in Great Neck started to hire women to come and work in their houses, day workers and week workers. That went on for many years, up until maybe into the 1970s. There was a strong influx of girls coming from all parts of the South to work on the sleep-in jobs.
My uncle was a chauffeur at that time. That was considered a real plush job. And the women did housework.
I mean, you had 80% probably of domestic workers. When my parents came, the domestic. That's where they came. I mean, you know, they came looking for more money, and if they didn't have the skills, if like my moms who finished 6th grade or somebody, what else are they going to do? But domestic work. And so you had you had some exceptions of people, like the Powells maybe, who came, who were fortunate to buy cabs, but there was those were the exceptions. But I would venture to say that most of, with the exception of a few who worked for the town, like the Swingins and some of the other people who worked for the town, is that at least 70% of the people probably worked in domestics.
And that's why we felt we needed job opportunities, we needed job training. There were some people in the community, like Mel Greenberg was one, I don't know if you know about him. And he had a factory, and he took people and trained them.
There was a man by the name of Judge Rigby, and he cleaned offices during the day for the Nassau County courthouse or the court buildings, and he went to law school at night, and eventually he became a judge. He was one of the first black judges in Nassau County who, I think he came from one of the islands, but as a young man he assessed the situation here on Long Island, and he said there, especially Nassau County, there's no jobs for blacks.
But I think the hospital was a very good thing because there were a lot of jobs, and there was job training too at North Shore University Hospital. And there were a lot of people I knew who got jobs there by the time in the 60s.
And North Shore Hospital was built, I think, in 1954, and it was much smaller than it is now. It was a small hospital, and many of the people from Manhasset were the first to work in there and open up their hospital. Matter of fact, at one time, most of the people that worked there was from the Spinney Hill area, you know, but this was a main source of income in this area, the North Shore Hospital. And when it opened up, they really gave the people in this community the jobs.
It's a sham. I don't want no handouts. Give me a job up. And that's never been done. We've never had equal parity. The persons here who've been blessed financially have not really invested what they could invest into this community. It's a sham. It's criminal. But when I think about, and I hold no revenge, but when I think about the privilege and the blessings and the affluence that we're surrounded with, and we get peanuts and we get crumbs and we get sawdust. We don't get the logs, we get the afters. Okay, have there been some inroads? Yeah. Trickle down? Yeah. North Shore Hospital? Yeah. But how many minorities have they trained in upscale positions over the course of 20, 30, 40 years? But I wonder often if this community was white, what would we have to do? What would happen then in terms of giving back? And we don't want you to give us anything. We want you to use your skills and your resources and that you have available to empower us so that we can increase the quality of life in our families like you do with your family.
I was bused to Lakeville School. A lot of people never have stopped to think about why Lakeville School would be in Little Neck. Well, at one time, where we lived in Lakeville, New York. The house still stands there now, 471 Community Drive, Manhasset, it was 471 Valley Road, Lakeville. But I'd like to show you the pictures when my mother went to school. Lakeville School there were as many black as there were white as people after the 1900s. I feel that it got to be more prejudiced than it was when everybody was poor, everybody was farmers, and the government wasn't as strong as it became.
The greatest shock to me when I moved to Manhasset was that here I was in Manhasset, New York, coming from South Carolina, which was had segregated schools, but coming to Manhasset, supposedly be a rich area, to find that there was a segregated school in Manhasset.
There was the Valley School, which was what you now know as EOC, and that's where the kids went from K through 6. And the teachers were very lackadaisical, and by the time they came to the junior high, which is where they were integrated, they were behind, and they were uncomfortable.
The Manhasset Valley School, which is now the EOC, the community center. Yeah, you can still see the school sign, Manhasset Valley. You can barely see it, and of course the cornerstone says 1929. You know the history of what happened. You know the education system kind of went bad.
We discovered.
This church and I shared a very similar kind of a journey. This church will in October, in October will be 74 years of age.
When they built that church, I'm going from a lot of things I heard that Mr. Carter, Saul Butler, August Brown, some of those men were responsible for the building of the church. And I think those men actually built the church. It wasn't built by, people outside of the community. I think it was built mostly by them.
Reverend James C. Brown was very loved. He was the pastor of that church for as long as I could remember.
He was a kind of a very caring person, very concerned about the community, about the congregants. He was instrumental, really, and I think helping many families who joined this church build them up, not only spiritually, but he gave them a sense of being making them accountable and responsible for not only just coming to church, but looking out for their families and taking care of their families, being employed. And so out of that particular situation, out of that concern, many of the people who joined this church purchased their homes in the Great Neck Manor, Spinney Hill section. Okay, so he had a major, not only spiritual influence, okay, but he had a major moral influence, he had an economic influence. I think he was really like a pioneer in helping people to shape their destiny.